This show is called Wine, Food and Travel. So to mark this special episode, I thought we would make a whistle stop Giro d'Italia, a brief tour to each of Italy's 20 regions to highlight those quintessential wine and food experiences that every visitor should make sure to discover and sample wherever you find yourself in La Bella Italia. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as we journey to some of Italy's most beautiful places in the company of those who know them best, the families who grow grapes and make fabulous wines. Through their stories, we will learn not just about their wines, but also about their ways of life, the local and regional foods and specialities that pair naturally with their wines, and the most beautiful places to visit. We have a wonderful journey of discovery ahead of us, and I hope you will join me. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today's episode marks my 156th consecutive podcast, which means that I've been now doing podcasts every single week for exactly 3 years. It's a milestone that I'm proud of, and I hope that you, my regular listeners, have enjoyed being part of this journey with me. Over this long period, we have visited many beautiful places together. We have met with wine producers from every single one of Italy's wine regions who have taken us directly into their worlds, given us vivid insights into where they are located, the wines that they produce, and also the local foods that go best with their wines. We have learned about wine hospitality opportunities too, and gained an insight into other things to do and enjoy in their areas. We've also met chefs, food producers, distillers, writers, and more, and these rich and enlightening conversations have, I hope, broadened your understanding and enjoyment of Italy, from the snow-covered Alps to islands closer to Africa than to the Italian mainland. This show is called Wine, Food and Travel. So to mark this special episode, I thought we would make a whistle-stop Giro d'Italia, a brief tour to each of Italy's 20 regions to highlight those quintessential wine and food experiences that every visitor should make sure to discover and sample wherever you find yourself in La Bella Italia. So without further ado, andiamo, let's go. Here are the first 10 regions, with the remaining 10 following next week. Once up, you'll find both episodes on my Wine, Food and Travel with Marc Millon playlist on Italian Wine Podcast. Abruzzo. Abruzzo, like much of Italy, is a rugged land of contrasts, located in central Italy across the spine of the Apennines and boasting the Gran Sasso, amongst the highest mountains in Italy, and hills that descend to the Adriatic coast. You can be skiing in winter, and not much more than an hour later, bask on a beach. This is a land of shepherds and fishermen, still one of the few places in Europe where the annual transumanza, the transhumance, still takes place, whereby hundreds, if not thousands of sheep are transported along ancient tracks in summer to the high pastures of the mountains. On the coast, fishing is still carried out from trabocchi, wooden piers that extend out into the sea with stilt-like huts on the end, from which nets are cast to gather a harvest from the sea. There are 2 outstanding dishes that must be sampled in Abruzzo and which reflect both sea and mountain. Brodetto is a great soupy fish stew, the recipe for which can vary from town to town, family to family. Normally here, the flavorful broth is made from fish trimmings and bony rockfish that are thrown into the cooking pot, simmered with garlic, tomatoes, wine or wine vinegar, saffron from L'Aquila, and spiked with some diavoletto chili pepper. Once strained, fish and shellfish like monkfish, langoustines, mussels, red mullet, or whatever other fish have been freshly caught are poached gently in that flavorful broth to result in a richly fragrant and delicious symphony of the Adriatic. The wine to enjoy with this is Trebbiano d'Abruzzo. The best examples produced from the characterful Trebbiano Abruzzese grape, a white that is forceful, full in flavor, and which can stand up to the rich and forthright flavors of the Brodetto. Moving inland, arrosticini is another dish that is absolutely typical of Abruzzo. Long skewers of cubes of lamb cooked over charcoal brazier, almost always outdoors. The smoke, the aroma of the charred lamb fat as the skewers are expertly turned, is enough to drive you crazy, and the succulent, flavorful Abruzzese lamb does not disappoint. This is food to virtually tear into with your bare hands, and the wine to wash it down is, of course, Montepulciano d'Abruzzo. This popular wine comes in many different guises, from young and easy to drink to serious oak-aged examples that rank among the greatest reds in Italy. My hankering to accompany those charred cubes of fatty lamb is a lighter example, ideally from organic vineyards, increasingly important in Abruzzo, with vibrant, crunchy fruit, well-knit tannins, and a streak of acidity that helps to cut the grease of the meat. Basilicata. Basilicata is a deep southern region flanked by Calabria and Campania on its Tyrrhenian side and by Calabria and Puglia on its Ionian. Known also as Lucania, its ancient name, it has long been one of the most impoverished regions in Italy, a harsh, mountainous land from which its inhabitants have long felt forced to leave in search of better lives. However, that is beginning to change as a younger generation is seeking to find ways to remain in the land that they love, and one way is through the production of quality wine. Indeed, Basilicata's greatest and best-known wine, Aglianico del Voltere, often made from ancient pre-Phylloxera vines grown on a long-extinct volcano, is rightly considered one of the great red wines of Italy. The local cuisine is firmly rustic and peasant in character, but no less delicious for that. The subsistence nature of mixed farms and small holdings has traditionally seen the pig as the mainstay of the diet. The pig, together with sheep that are still sent out to graze on hill and mountain pasture land. Luganega, a well-flavored sausage these days mainly made in northern Italy, takes its name from Lucania, and indeed the local variety, Lucanica sausage, has a history that dates back to the Greeks and the Romans. The best Lucanica di Picerno, flavored with wild fennel and hot chilies to enjoy grilled over charcoal and used to make a spicy sausage ragu to have over handmade pasta. The wine to accompany it is, of course, Aglianico del Voltere. The Aglianico grapes cultivated for centuries on ancient volcanic soils to produce a deeply flavored red wine that has beautiful black fruit, high acidity, and rich tannins, perfect with that spicy sausage. Calabria. Calabria, the toe of the Italian boot, washed by both the Tyrrhenian and Ionian seas, and the gateway to Sicily, just across the Straits of Messina, lay at the heart of Magna Graecia, the important Greek colonies that were established here from the 7th century BC. City-states such as Croton, Sybaris, Cremissa were all renowned in the ancient world. Sybaris was reputed to be the most luxurious, famous for its excessive hedonism, hence the word Sybaritic, though today this poor southern region is anything but, its inhabitants long forced either to immigrate in search of better lives or to scratch a living from a land that can be incredibly harsh, shaped by the Aspromonte and Sila mountains. Yet this is still very much a region of good things to eat and drink. Chili-spiked salumi, such as the now ubiquitous unduria, the sweet and prized onions from Tropea, a profusion of citrus fruits, especially cedro or citron, wild foods foraged for free, such as mushrooms from those wooded mountains. Fish comes from the coastal areas, and meat and wild game from inland. Calabria is probably the hottest and spiciest cuisine of all of Italy's 20 regions. The love of chilies probably a result from the fact that in poorer times, this was one way to give flavor to very little at very little cost. Today, that predilection for spicy hot foods is celebrated in a Festa del Peperoncino, held every year in Diamante. Mustica is, what shall we call it, the poor man's caviar of Calabria, a paste made from salted anchovies, olive oil, and vast quantities of the hottest peperoncini, to spread on bread as part of an antipasti array, or to serve as a nibble with a chilled glass of Ciro Bianco or Melissa Bianco, both zesty, saline whites made primarily from the Greco grape. What then to enjoy with Calabria's greatest red, Ciro Rosso, produced from Galliopo grapes cultivated in hill vineyards around the ancient town of Ciro that rises just above the Ionian coast and the ancient Greek ruins at Punta Alice. I would certainly not mind a glass or two of this with grilled steaks of pesce spada, swordfish, but with a reserva, surprisingly light in color but rich in structure and well-knit tannins, then I'd think of like a warming dish, like capretto alla silana, a hearty mountain preparation, made with cubes of kid, slow stewed with onions, potatoes, wine, and, why not, some more of those fiery pepperoncini. Campania. There is so much great food and wine that comes from Campania that it is difficult to make a choice. Naples, of course, is most famous as the home of pizza, and here you will undoubtedly find the best pizza that you will ever have in your life, both traditional pizza margherita and pizza alla marinara, as well as more creative creations. I like the classic, and with my pizza margherita, it has to be the wine of Naples, the wine that Neapolitans themselves declare to be the perfect pizza wine. Gragnano from the Sorrentine Peninsula, made from a blend of native grapes, including Piedirosso, Aglianico, Sciacinosa, and others. Deep in color, vivacious and foaming, raspingly dry yet without tannin, this can be served chilled in warm weather and pairs just perfectly with real pizza from Naples. What else? Along the coast, the dish that I always yearn to eat is, of course, spaghetti con le vongole. The clams must be vongole verace, the sweetest and most flavorful of all, steamed simply in wine, garlic, maybe a touch of peperoncino, and served over perfectly al dente spaghetti. The best, coincidentally, comes from Gragnano, like that pizza wine, made from local wheat, the pasta produced in the artisan fashion, extruded slowly through a bronzed eye. What wine, then, to pair with that gorgeous steaming bowl of spaghetti con le vongole? For me, it must be a Falanghina from the Campi Flegrei, the burning land just west of Naples, the vineyards blessed by the salty sea breezes of the bay, fresh with beautiful citrus fruit that pairs so well with those juicy clams. Inland Irpinia, meanwhile, was once dotted with hunting lodges owned by the Spanish aristocracy, who lived luxuriously and dined in Baroque splendor. Today, though Irpinia is famous as one of Italy's most prestigious wine regions, in the woods and forests of hills and mountains, game is still plentiful. Wild boar, venison, game birds, and more, full-flavored foods that pair with one of the best red wines in Italy, Geraci, a magnificent expression of the mighty Aglianico grape. Emilia-Romagna. Emilia-Romagna, the belly of Italy, running along the broad Po Valley, is a rich source of so many good things to eat as well as to drink. This is the land of salumi, the best cured pork products in the country, including many that are known and found around the world, as well as others that you will only encounter here. Prosciutto di Parma, mortadella di Bologna, coppa piacentina, salami di felino, culatello di Zibello, zampone di Modena, and much, much more. A slice of cured salumi, say a slice of prosciutto di Parma or culatello di Zibello, stuffed into a gnocco fritto and accompanied by a glass or tumbler of sparkling pignoletto or pale, foaming Lambrusco di Sorbara, is truly the taste of Emilia. Across the non-existent border into Romagna, there are more hills, vineyards and olive groves, and grilled lamb and mutton are the favored meats rather than pork. Agnello coi piselli al uso di Romagna is a classic, as outlined by Italy's first domestic cookbook author, Pellegrino Artusi, who came from the town of Forlimpopoli. For this dish, the cubes of succulent lamb are sautéed with tomatoes and peas, a home-cooked favorite accompanied by a calice of Sangiovese di Romagna. And what about Bologna alla Grassa, Bologna the Fat? The most famous dish in this, Italy's foremost city for food, must be tagliatelle al ragù, the silky, hand-rolled svolia of pasta, made from no more than doppio zero flour and eggs, hand-cut into strips, is classically bathed in a slow-simmered meat ragu and topped with another glory of Emilia-Romagna, aged Parmigiano Reggiano. This is a dish that cries out to be paired with a good red wine. But which red wine? Bologna virtually straddles the two regions of Emilia and Romagna, which each have very different histories, and there's a good argument for choosing a wine from either. A deeply colored Lambrusco di Grappa Rossa, bone dry and wildly foaming, the razor-sharp acidity helping to cut the richness of the ragout, while a deeper oak-aged Sangiovese di Romagna is also perfect, with that steaming bowl of pasta, especially on a cold day in winter when mist and damp envelops the Po Valley. Either way, you won't be disappointed.
Who wants to be the next Italian wine ambassador? Join an exclusive network of 400 Italian wine ambassadors across 48 countries. Vinitaly International Academy is coming to Chicago on October 19th to 21st, and to Almaty, Kazakhstan from November 16th to 18th. Don't miss out. Register now at vinitaly.com.
Friuli Venezia Giulia. We're in the far northeastern corner of Italy, in a region that is at a crossroads and which has changed allegiances and been fought over since the time of the Romans and probably even earlier. Friuli Venezia Giulia. This is a natural corridor that links the Italian peninsula to both northern Europe as well as east to the Balkans and the eastern Mediterranean. The Lombards descended over the Alps in the 6th century AD, and the region was long part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. In both World War I and II, it was the scene of some of the fiercest fighting. If the mix of cultures that have passed through Friuli Venezia Giulia are evidence of a turbulent past, what is without question is that the result is one of the most intriguing of all the many and singular cuisines of Italy, with influences from Austria, Slovenia, Croatia, and Venice, all flavoring the piatti tipici and adding the distinctive flavors of Central Europe to the nation's canon of dishes. Iotta, for example, is a typical bean feast from Trieste, a soupy one-pot meal of beans, lard, pork, and sauerkraut that is something of the emblem of the city. Enjoy this hearty rib tickler with, I'd say, a glass or two of Malvasia Istriana from the Carso, or why not with an example from across borders that previously did not exist, from either Slovenia or Croatia. Slovenian influences abound in dishes such as chalsons, a sort of ravioli filled with dried fruits and jam, ricotta, herbs, spices, sweet, salty, spicy, bathed in melted butter, to be eaten as a primo piatto, or first course, ideally accompanied, if you ask me, with a glass or two of Friulano from the Collio, the Ponca marl soil of this zone, capable of producing white wines that have an added depth of flavor, a stony minerality, a long and persistent finish. What about the rich, warming food traditions of the mountains? Musetto con brovada is just such a hearty dish, a fatty, boiling salami pulled out of the ever-present caldaia to be cut into thick slices, served with brovada, sour, fermented turnips, and the ever-present polenta, still the staple of the region. With dishes such as this, I turn to a local red, my favorite, the hugely structured, deep in color, rich in tannin, Pignolo, one of the most distinctive and uncompromising of all wines from this land, where people have had to make do with hardship and war over the centuries, and to have carved out their own distinctive identity, not least through their food and wines. Lazio. Lazio, or Latium, is the region that encompasses Rome and its surrounds, from the Tyrrhenian coast to the Apennines and bordering Tuscany, Umbria, Abruzzo, and Campania. Its traditional cuisine, like almost all Italian regional cuisines, has its roots in the cucina povera, with dishes that make good use of not much at all. The four classic pasta dishes of Rome are case in point: cacio e pepe, short or long pasta with pecorino cheese and black pepper, nothing else; alla gricia, which includes the addition of guanciale, pig's jowl; carbonara, which has a further addition of eggs or egg yolks; and amatriciana, which further includes tomatoes and perhaps a touch of peperoncino. The best wine pairings? Perhaps a white from Colli Albani or an unoaked red Cesanese. Porchetta, purchased from a roadside van in wine towns such as Frascati, is a delicious street food. A whole pig, deboned and stuffed with plenty of garlic, wild fennel, black pepper, fragrant, greasy, delicious, carved warm into paper packets, or stuffed in rolls to enjoy with the hands, washed down with simple jugs of the local wine, or with a good bottle of Frascati, made primarily from the superior Malvasia puntinata. By the seaside, the usual maritime favorites can be found, while inland, as well as in Rome itself, heartier meat dishes are typical. Roman cuisine is renowned for making use of every part of an animal, the so-called quinto quarto, or fifth quarter, to note the use of offal. Those bits that in richer cuisines might be eschewed. Coda alla vaccinara, oxtail, is a good example. Slow braised in garlic and tomatoes until the meat is falling off the gooey bone. Beautiful, paired with a richer red, such as a superlatium wine from the Merlot grape, or with an oak-aged Cesanese da File. Liguria. Liguria is a narrow maritime region that extends from the French border down the coast, with Genoa as its capital to the border with Tuscany. Chic seaside towns such as Portofino attract the well-heeled jet set, while the 5 seaside villages of Cinque Terre bring in the rest of the world. Like almost everywhere else, Liguria is a land of sea and mountain. Here in the sunshine, vegetables and herbs gain intense flavors, as in the region's most famous dish, pesto alla genovese, dark, small-leaved, fragrant Ligurian basil, pounded to an emulsion with garlic, pine nuts, Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, and yellow-tinged local extra virgin olive oil. This pesto or paste is classically served on trofie pasta, little handmade spirals, the pasta cooked alongside both potatoes and green beans, the definitive taste of Liguria. The favorite wine to pair with this classic is a zesty yet full-flavored Vermentino, known also as Pigatto, from the Riviera Ligure di Ponente. Anywhere along the coast, in seaside towns, you will be able to feast on a great array of seafood antipasti. Shellfish such as datteri di mare, tartufi di mare, cozze, or a simply grilled local fish. In the Cinque Terre, the local wine, made from grapes cultivated on steep, heroic vineyards that descend virtually to the sea's edge, pairs beautifully and effortlessly with the local maritime cuisine. Inland foods include game such as rabbit, game birds, wild boar, hearty foods for hard-working people. The meat juices sopped up with slabs of focaccia made with good Ligurian olive oil, and accompanied by red wine from the Rosesse grape, fruity with good acidity to cut through the grease. To finish a meal, try a biscotto di lagaccio flavored with fennel seeds, accompanied by a small glass of chaquetra, passito dessert wine from Cinque Terre. Lombardia. Rich Lombardy, with Milan the financial capital of Italy, is not somewhere that immediately comes to mind when we think of Italy's greatest food and wine regions. But make no mistake, there's a wealth of good things to eat and drink from here. This is a land that encompasses the high Alps, some of the most beautiful and most visited of Italy's lakes, and extends down to the fertile and abundant Po Valley. From Lakes Como, Maggiore, Garda, and Iseo come an abundance of freshwater fish, as well as unique conserved lake specialities, such as the Sardina di Monte Isola from Lake Iseo and the misoltini from Lake Como. The small sardine-sized fish known as agoni are first salted, then hung outdoors to cure in the dry breezes that sweep down the lakes from the mountains, a salty, chewy local delicacy that is often served simply with polenta. Strange as it may seem, the best wine to try with this, as well as with the delicious fresh fish of the lakes, is Franciacorta, the Metodo Classico sparkling wine, crisp and fresh, to either temper the more intense flavors of the salted and preserved fish or to complement the delicacy of the fresh. What about Milan's most famous dish? Ossobuco con risotto alla milanese. Slow-braised shin of veal served with a saffron-tinted risotto sprinkled with a garnish of gremolata made from parsley, garlic, and lemon zest. The wine excellence for this beautiful and classic dish must be a powerful yet ethereal red from the beautiful Alpine Valtellina, where Nebbiolo grapes are cultivated on ancient dry stone terraced vineyards. Lombardy gained its name because it became the capital of the Lombards, the Longobardi, or Longbeards, Germanic nomads who descended over the Alps to eventually claim and rule over much of the Italian peninsula for some 200 years from their capital at Pavia. The Lombards brought with them their native pig and helped to foster a tradition of curing of salumi. Interestingly, some of the most distinctive cured meat projects of Pavia come not from the meat of pigs, but from geese. Indeed, both salami d'oca as well as prosciutto d'oca remain popular, best accompanied by foaming glasses of Bonarda from Oltrepo Pavese, or, why not, with a glass or two of Pinot Nero Metodo Classico from the same wine zone. Marche. Le Marche, a region that extends down the Adriatic seaboard, remains surprisingly and inexplicably undiscovered, at least by international visitors. Italians, especially in summer, throng to the seaside resorts, as well as enjoy time in the beautiful mountains. It's a land that not only encompasses sea and mountain cuisines, it is also a bridge between northern and southern Italy. From the sophisticated and historic university town of Urbino in the north to medieval Ascoli Piceno, one of Italy's most beautiful small cities in the south, via Ancona and Macerata, there is much to discover, including history, art, churches and monuments, and a delicious regional cuisine and sensational wines. Let's start with an aperitivo in the south, in Ascoli Piceno, where we sup on paper-wrapped cones of possibly the best drinking nibble ever invented, the Oliva Ascolana, a large, meaty Ascolana tenera olive, pitted and stuffed with a mixture of various meats, breaded and deep-fried, best enjoyed piping hot with a glass or tumbler of Passerina or Pecorino white wine. The best Pecorino wines come from nearby Offida, where some decades ago Guido Cocci-Grifoni saved this distinctive grape variety from extinction. Further up the coast, at Porto Novo, just south of Ancona, and under the brooding Monte Conero, we'll dine on a primo piatto of spaghetti coi moscioli, spaghetti with mussels. Moscioli is a local name for cozze. The mussels simmered in a light tomato sauce, a dish best sampled with your toes virtually washed by the tide at waterfront restaurants. Here, the wine to enjoy with this sea-fresh dish is definitely Marche's most distinctive white, Verdicchio de Castelli di Esi, not one of the bigger and more structured examples, but rather a lighter version, perfect on a hot summer day. Wine that almost seems to evaporate in the glass, meaning you must order another bottle. Deeper, richer, more full and structured versions from the Verdicchio come from both the Castelli di Esi and Metallica, and go well with full-flavored foods, perhaps anatra in porchetta, a boned duck stuffed with garlic and wild fennel and cooked in a wood oven. This is a land of hard-working folk who take their food seriously. In Cartocetto, a town famous for the quality of its extra virgin olive oil, there is a Sagra di Vincis Grassi, the local lasagna variation, the sheets of fresh egg pasta layered with any number of ingredients, including varieties of meat, bechamel, chicken liver, porcini mushrooms, and maybe even tartufi from nearby Aqualanga, an abundant source of both summer as well as white and black truffles and associated truffle products. Hearty, warming foods are also the feature of the cuisine, such as coniglio, rabbit, or oca, goose, in potacchio, a method of slow stewing the meats in an earthenware pot flavored with garlic, tomato, rosemary, and wine, the sort of richer food that is delicious with a full-bodied red, such as Rosso Conero from Montepulciano grapes from the Monte Conero, or Rosso Piceno, a blend of Montepulciano and Sangiovese from the province of Ascoli Piceno. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Please remember to like, share and subscribe right here or wherever you get your pods. Likewise, you can visit us at ItalianWinePodcast.com. Until next time, chin chin.